So, welcome to the second season of our Nepos Lightning Talks. Today we welcome Giuseppe, our lead designer. His second episode already. Very successful finish of the first season. And now we will hear something about the 19 laws of design. Was that the right title? No,
of UX.
Oh, of UX. Okay, the 19 laws
but
of
it's suitable
UX.
for design too. So.
Oh, everything is connected. So over to you.
Yeah.
And looking forward.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for listening and watching. I wanted to talk about rules and laws about the context of UX and UI. And happily, I found a really cool website from Jon Jablonski. He's also a UX UI designer, and he collected 19 laws of user experience, which you can take and work with it. And I really like this page because he collected somehow the most important laws. And I wanted to share with you this 19 laws and talk about about each law step by step. So we start with the first. We have 19, and it's about aesthetic usability effect. That means that if the user is testing or is using a good-looking user interface, mostly he is more tolerant for minor usability issues. That means if it looks good, you have the possibility to somehow verstecken. To hide, yes, to hide some problems with your UI. The second is Doherty threshold. Yeah, this is a really cool insight. It means that if the user is using your user interface and it has to do some task, it sources the interaction between computer and the user if the productivity between them is minor than 400 milliseconds. So it's important that every interactions you are putting into your UI is somehow fast, so that the user gets the sensation, oh, okay, I'm getting forward, things are get done. The third is fits law. That means, in the end, that make elements you wish to be easily selectable large and position them close to the user. So main functions should be positioned like that the user is direct seeing them, and so that he has to think about where is the main action. So the fourth law is Hicks law. Means more choices results to think about these choices and make decisions. Simplify choices for the users to ensure by breaking complex tasks into smaller steps. Avoid overwhelming users by highlighting recommended options. So let's focus only on one task and don't try to recommend the users, make this, you can do this too, you can do this, you can do this. Jacob's law. It means that if you realize that users are not using your website, but they are using other websites, that they have the same services. Why? Maybe it lays down that the other website uses patterns that they already know. So we should focus always not to think everything new. Just use pattern that the users already know. So provide familiar patterns. 6, law of common region, like you see. Elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with clearly defined boundary. Try to add borders around an element or groups of elements is an easy way to create separation from surrounding elements. Seven, law of pregnance. People will perceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simplest form possible because it's the interpretation that requires the least cognitive effort of us. That means if you have some elements or designs, try to simplify them because the user already is trying to do this in his brain to simplify things. It prevents us from becoming overwhelmed with information. Law of proximity. Objects that are near or proximate to each other tend to be grouped together. The law of proximity is useful by allowing users to group different clusters of content at a glance. Law of similarity. The human eye tends to perceive similar elements in a design as complete picture, shape or group even if those elements are separated. Ensure that the links and navigation systems are visually differentiated from normal text elements and are constantly styled. So it's somehow important to make a bigger contrast between the elements that are used. 10. Law of uniform connectedness. Elements that are visually connected are perceived as more related than elements with no connection. Group functions of similar nature so they are visually connected via colors, lines, frames, or other shapes. Miller's law. So this is a really cool insight also regarding our UI, that chunking is an effective method of presenting groups of content in a manageable way. Organize content in groups of 5 to 9 items at a time. So somehow it's a law that we also saw that it's somehow working better if the users in our navigation concept is not getting a bunch of a long list. 12. Occam's razor. Analyze each element and remove as many as possible without compromising the overall function. Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects comes from 20% of the causes. Focus the majority of effort on the area that will bring the largest benefits to the most users. So, I mean, if we read all this law, it doesn't mean that you have to combine everyone, but these are guidances that you can take and to analyze, is my UI working, or why is my UI not working? 14. Parkinson's law. This is really cool. Any task will inflate until all of the available time is spent. So this is more regarding to our work progress into our office. Like how much time do you need for this task? Oh, 3 days. For sure, we'll take 3 days for that. You know, it's really interesting. 15. Postal's law. Be liberal in what you accept and conservative in what you send. So that means that be empathic, flexible and tolerant to any number of actions the user could possibly take. This means accepting variable input from users, translating input to meet the requirements, defining boundaries for input, and providing clear feedback to the users. 16. Serial positioning effect. Okay, users have a propensity to best remember the first and the last items in a series. So that means if you have some items that are maybe not so important, put them into the middle of the list. Tesla's law. Tesla's law, also known as the law of conservation of complexity, states that for any system there is a certain amount of complexity which cannot be reduced. So I think this is also a really good insight when we are talking about actions that we are planning to do, and we always say, okay, we have to simplify them. But on a certain point, you can't simplify some certain actions because they need this kind of complexity. Von Restorff effect. For the von Restorff effect, also known as the isolation effect, predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. I mean, this is easy to understand, I guess. And the last one, the Zeigarnik effect. It's a bit controversial, I would say. People remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. Oh, sorry. So, use progress bars for complex tasks to visualize, indicate when a task is incomplete, and thus increase the likelihood it will be completed. So, but what I want to say on the 19th law is scientists made this test again and again, and they had always different results. So, this is somehow not so reliable. That's it. If you have any questions?
So you said already that this is maybe an indicator to analyze why the design is working. What do you think, how much effort do we need to pay to stick to these laws? I mean, would you recommend to validate each law for each design, or do we need to invalidate one law to create something new, or to create something new?
While I was going through the website, I was reading all these laws and I was checking them always with our UI. You know, it's like, okay, interesting. And I would say most of the law, we stick to them. We mostly believe, we never talk about this law, but we just did it because of our profession, because of our testing with the users and on their feedback of them. And when I was finished with this law, I was like, yeah, cool. I mean, this is cementing our approach, how we are creating this universal interface. But that means not that we have to stick always on that. I mean, it's just like, these are guidances and to give you some tools to analyze and to make it more abstract, your product, you know. Yeah.
If you could make up one rule yourself, what is for you the most important UX rule?
Yeah. Talk to the users. Simple as that. I mean, talk to the users, to your focus group. So I think this is the most effective.
And when we talk to 5 people and we get 7 different opinions how something should be styled, how do we validate what is the right solution?
Yeah, I mean, this is up to the guy who has the profession about it, who has the task to fulfill. Yes. And then you have to believe in the ability of the person who has to do this task, to fulfill this task. You get insights from the users and you as the person who has tested with the users have to make a conclusion about that. Not the users telling you what to do. The users gives you feedback, and based on the feedback, it should be your ability to make a decision. And the decision is not doing in regarding UX or UI, it's not doing an artist, or it's not doing an engineer. It's doing mostly UX UI designer. So somehow who is into the product.
And do you have a value, or what do you see as more important, UI or UX? So for example, if you see something that looks really beautiful but violates half of these laws, would you still go with it, or would you say no, the usability? For example, a good thing that came to my mind is the use common patterns. Use something everyone else is using, but maybe that stops your innovative force.
In between that, there's the magic. Basically, I would say UX and UI are stuck together. You can't divorce them. Never, ever. It's the same thing like you can't divide letters and copy. If I just write AF321, what does it mean? If I put some sense in it, then it does have a meaning for me. So, and this is the same thing like in UX and UI. I could make a nice looking button, but where is the aim of this button? So you can't separate them. And normally every UI designer has not only a designer, every human being has a sense of user experience in his context. If you would talk to a writer, he has also somehow his structure, how to work and how it works for him and for others. And this is also user experience. So, and regarding this, use always common patterns and try to invent new stuff. Like I said, I think somewhere in the middle there happens the magic.
Cool. Great.
Yep. Thank you.